Hey guys, so I wanted to come on here, and I think the title of the video kind of explains what this is going to be about. But in case you guys are wondering, why I'm talking about this, it's real simple. You see, I'm sure a lot of us, growing up, living on our own, families, you name it, I'm sure we've all experienced this. You see, recently, actually yesterday, I should say, my second oldest sister experienced something that she's no stranger to. See, the reason I say she's no stranger to it is because the first time this happened was basically about 2 years ago after her and her family moved in to the house that they're in now. Basically, they bought it, if you will. So, a few months after they bought it, 2 years ago, one of the former tenants, one of the former tenants, I should say, I think she described it as a little old Chinese lady, and I say that with all due respect, no offense, but a little old Chinese lady decided to knock on the door and ring the bell. So, my sister answered it the first time this happened 2 years ago. And the lady just wanted to get some rosemary, wondered if that was okay, as well as go get some pears from the tree in the backyard. And my sister was cool with that. She's like, okay, no problem. And I think this has happened a few other times before that where my sister, very cordially allowed her to do it. But then over time, apparently this lady would show up once in a while and try to do it again. And I think some of these times were when my sister was working or out of town on a vacation, when like my third youngest nephew would be here with me and my mom, stuff like that. But the question is, why was this lady doing it? Well, like I alluded to, she used to be the former tenant that lived at the house my sister and her family lives at now. You see, long story short, they used to rent a place, in Modesto, but because the area was not, basically improving very well, and the fact that some of the issues they had with their house are not being immediately addressed like they should, they decided to basically look elsewhere, and instead of renting, where they basically felt a lot of the money was going, they decided to buy. And that's what they did. They ended up looking, they found a place on the border of Modesto and Empire, and the rest is history. Now, not a lot of people do agree with the area they live in, but the house is a nicer house, and it's perfect for just her husband, and the third youngest son, and it also has a guest room whenever the oldest son and his fiance decide to stay the night, should they be in the area for like Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatever. So, to get to the point here, my sister has dealt with this before. Again, like I said, when she first moved there, the first couple of months, afterwards, not a problem. But obviously, when she's been out of town or at work, and my nephew has been either in school and her husband's been at work, or like I said, my nephew's been here with us and they've been out, celebrating maybe an anniversary, being at a concert, going to Vegas to spend time with our oldest sister and her husband, whatever the case may be. Apparently, there have been several other occasions where this lady has done this. And yesterday, it happened again, but my sister didn't answer. Now, she didn't answer because, one, it was early in the morning, and she had just, saw my third youngest nephew off to school. Basically, he's a high schooler. He takes the bus to his school, so she wanted to see him off, make sure he got, to the bus stop area, the bus pickup area anyway for the students, safe and sound. Anyway, like I said, she was at home along with my brother-in-law, her husband, because he took the day off, because he can afford to do that. And what happened, like I said, is she ended up hearing a ringing of the doorbell and a knock on the door. And she's wondering what's going on. And, when she didn't answer, because again, like I said, again, I'm doing this a little late, so I do apologize. But, basically, like anybody, would, she didn't immediately answer the door. She's not going to answer the door to someone she doesn't know, right? I mean, who would do that? No offense and all due respect when I say that. But she didn't answer the door. She just let the person knock, ring the doorbell, and then that was it. So she looked on the camera, and she noticed that it was the lady that had done this before. So she brought this up on Facebook to all her friends that that she's friends with on Facebook. That includes family and friends that she's known for a long time. And everybody has pretty much agreed that this is nonsensical, that this is dumb, this is stupid, and this needs to be addressed. That she basically needs to contact the daughter of this lady. And the reason she has to do that is because this lady should know that, hey, there's a store down the street that you can pick up these items, these same items you want to, basically cook with or eat, or basically take home and, make, any kind of recipe you want with it, or eat straight up, if you know what I'm saying. But there might be a reason for this too. You see, basically, the lady that would do this, like I said, she's with one of the former owners that used to live in that house. But here's the thing: she, along with her family, used to live in that house that my sister and her family now occupy for over 20 years, almost a quarter of her life. And anybody knows that when you move away or move out of a home that you've mostly known for most of your life, that you've lived in, you've raised your kids in, your kids are grown up in, stuff like that, it's hard to let go. And you feel like, even though, that's no longer your home, that's no longer your place of living, you still feel like you own it. You still feel like that's part of that house belongs to you. And maybe, this is my opinion, my thought process, my opinion, maybe that's what's going on in her mind. Because we don't know how she was raised. Nobody does. But we could assume and theorize that she was probably raised to believe that even when you move out of a place and sell it to somebody else, that part of that place is still yours. Some of the things around that property still belong to you and that you own it. Which is why I guess she basically feels that she pretty much could just come in, go over to my sister's house, take some rosemary, and then, go into the backyard as she pleases, get some pears and leave. She feels like maybe that's her right. But here's the thing. She can't do that. She can't do that anymore because that's not her home anymore. And, that property the house is on is not her property anymore. That tree that she planted there for the pears, that rosemary that she planted there to grow, doesn't belong to her anymore. It belongs now to my sister and her family. Just like my mom planted some plants and rosemary and stuff at our house on Thoroughbred Street in Patterson, in that backyard, even though she could pretty much claim right to that rosemary she planted there, she can't because it doesn't belong to her anymore. It belongs to the people that now live there or renting or whatever. It's just so, when I read this, when I read what my sister put down on Facebook, it's like, it just blows my mind, honestly, because growing up, moving from house to house at times, every few years or several years or whatever, moving from a house to an apartment like I did on my own in Lawrence, my mom moving from, Modesto back to Patterson and everything. It's, living in Tracy, Livermore. It's like, never once do any of us recall, former tenants, coming up to our property and saying, hey, can we take the rosemary? Oh, can we go to the backyard and get some things off that tree we planted? Never once have we ever dealt with that. Never once. My mom planted a couple of trees in the backyard on Joanna Court in Newark, in the Newark Fremont region that we used to live in, on Joanna Court, which you could see from the freeway now. And my mom, like I said about the rosemary she planted in Patterson, she could easily, if she wanted to, lay claim to those trees, but she can't. Because even though she planted them, they're no longer hers. They belong to whoever lives in that house now, and whoever owns that property. So it's just strange to hear things like this. And my opinion, again, my opinion, I say this with all due respect, no offense. My opinion is I think this lady may have been raised to believe that even if you leave something behind, or you sell something, or you move out, that whatever remains on that property that used to, that you may have, I don't know, planted or built, that technically that's still yours. That technically, even though people now, new, tenants occupy your former home, that everything else that was there when you were there is technically yours. Like there's a shed back there in the backyard that they want to get rid of. And that shed was there, was there when the former tenants, this older lady and her family lived there, which obviously means they may have built that. So maybe she has a belief that, hey, that shed is ours. I don't know. It's strange. It's just, just doing this video, talking about it, just, it's really just, it's crazy. It's crazy to really think, to even, kind of come up with any kind of, rational solution as to why this, people do this. Old or not, raised differently or not, this, that shouldn't be an excuse. The point is, you've ended that chapter of your life and have decided to move into decided to start a new chapter of your life, and move on. You shouldn't have any reason to go back. You shouldn't. Now, like I said, like I mentioned, they lived there for almost a quarter of a century of their lives, before they sold that house to my sister and her family. So maybe it's still hard for her. I don't know. Maybe she has Alzheimer's. I don't know. Maybe she has these flashbacks. I don't know. It's all mere speculation. It's just, again, I can tell you honestly, growing up, moving, when we did, on the times we did throughout California and even into Kansas at times, but mostly through California, never once did our parents have to deal with something like this. Never once did my older sister and her husband, when they moved into the house they're in now, have to deal with something like this. Never once did my second oldest sister and her husband in the various homes they rented at times have to deal with something like this. Neither did my mom. Neither does my dad. Neither did me. None of us, when we would move out into new places, become the tenants of our own homes and everything, rental or not, never once did we have to deal with any of this. Never once. And yet, this is mind-boggling to me. It's mind-boggling to me. And even my oldest nephew, who my second oldest sister is the mother of, my oldest nephew, who recently got engaged to his fiance. Even he has told her that this needs to stop and she needs to contact the daughter because this isn't right. It's not just not, the thing is, it's not just not right. It's the fact that it's annoying. It's bothersome. Because, you think this lady would understand that she doesn't live there anymore. The plants that are on that property now belong to my sister, technically. That shed in the backyard that they probably built when they were there now belongs to my sister and her family now. And it's just mind-boggling, to say the least. I mean, and that's why I'm doing this video, because I want to know if any of you guys have dealt with this. This is unusual. I mean, again, I can understand, and I can understand and only speculate that maybe she was raised to believe, that when you move out, that if you leave anything behind, in the home you've moved out of, either in the home, in the backyard, or in the front yard, whether you planted it or you built it, that's still technically your property, and you can go back and get it and claim it at any time you want, no issues. I can speculate and understand maybe, her being raised in that manner, but still, times have changed. times have changed. And when it comes to here in the U.S., and I say this with all due respect, no offense, that don't fly. That kind of thinking don't fly if that's the case. Again, I don't know. Again, I don't truly know what's going on, what the issue is. She might have Alzheimer's. She might be having flashbacks. I don't know. Or maybe the fact that she was there for over a quarter of her life, maybe she just misses being there. And now it's hitting her. Like, she might be in a new place, but she's not, she might be in a new place and everything, maybe even living with her daughter, but it's not the same, and she wants to go back. And here's my question to that. If you in reality did not really want to leave this home, then why put it up for sale? Why didn't you just stand your ground and say, no, I'm not going to sell my house. I'm going to rebuild it, I'm going to remodel it, and we're going to stay here forever. Why even allow people to convince you to sell it if you didn't want to move? If you knew you were going to probably miss being there? I don't know. I don't know. It's just so unrationally nutsoid, if you catch my drift. Unrationally nutsoid. But again, it's just my opinion. It's my opinion. But what do you guys think of this? What do you think of this scenario? I mean, honestly, what do you think about the fact that a former tenant that may have lived in a house for almost a quarter of their lives, or long enough to basically consider it their home? How would you? What are your thoughts about them doing what this lady's doing? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, me and my mom, we lived on Thoroughbred in Patterson for a decade, almost a decade. And you don't see us going back there, like I said, and claiming the rosemary that she planted there, or claiming a plant, or some of the plants that she planted and ended up being rooted there. You don't see us doing that. No. It's, we've learned that even though that was a major part of our lives, it's time to move on. And we've moved on to a better area. God has put us in a nicer area for the time being. And maybe even forever. Who knows? But the thing is, never once growing up did me and my sisters ever notice something like this with our parents dealing, with this kind of a situation. Never once did we notice our parents dealing with it. Never once did we on our own deal with it. So it's just mind-boggling. But what do you guys think of this whole situation? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Hopefully you let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section during the live premiere, on the live chat during the premiere. Like the video, check out the Teespring store, check me out at Patreon at BW Roses, check me out at BW Roses discussions on all your favorite podcast locations, except for Pandora. Check me out on BW Roses on VENMO, as well as check me out at my VENMO if you want to help donate there. But again, let me know what your thoughts are on this whole situation, because this is a first for me. But what are you guys' thoughts? Have you dealt with it before yourselves? What are your thoughts? And I'll talk to y'all later.